All right, welcome, my friends, to another episode here of Extreme Health Radio. Glad to have you here. This is going to be a really cool show. I'm looking forward to having Nathan Walz back on the show. We're going to talk about light and how light affects our health. And it seems like the more you learn, the more there is to learn, and then the rabbit trail continues to go down the rabbit trail there. So this is going to be a cool show because we get a lot of questions inside the Extreme Health Academy, and I get a ton of questions coming to my inbox about light and how to mitigate light. And I know a little bit, but it's great to have on someone who knows more than me about light and how light affects us. So we're going to talk with Nathan Walz. I'll introduce him in just a second. Hopefully you guys are having a great Monday. Happy Monday, my friends. It's getting close to Christmas. I have not done any Christmas shopping yet, so I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that, but hopefully soon. Let's see. We've got a lot of cool things happening in our show. We do broadcast 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you guys want to join the live shows, we have live shows every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. So a lot of cool stuff happening. Let's give you a little update on our show schedule. Today's obviously Nathan Walz. We'll be introducing him in just a sec. And then we have Alan Phillips. We'll be talking about vaccine politics and law and our legal rights with vaccines, which is a apropos subject considering I'm in California, and that's where a lot of the vaccine laws have been really ramped up here lately. So we'll talk to him about that on Wednesday, 10:45. And then on Friday, we got Tim Marshall. We'll be talking with him about nutrient therapeutics, improving cognition, and mainly about his work with brain healing, traumatic brain injuries, CTEs, and stuff like that. So that'll be a great show. On Friday at 10:45 a.m. And then then next week we have Brandon Amalani. We'll be talking with him about the Blue Shield technology and EMF mitigation strategies. And then William Bankston on his research. So we got a lot of cool stuff happening inside or on Extreme Health Radio. So if you haven't joined or if you haven't subscribed on YouTube or on iTunes, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new content coming up. So just want to let you guys know about that. And let me see if you guys are here. What we'll do, I think, is let me turn this down a little bit. I think what we'll do is we'll pop in and out of the chat room today. So if you have any questions regarding light and how light affects our health, if you're a longtime listener to the show, you probably know that I talk a lot about this because I feel like it's a big part of our health. Maybe some people say the number one part of our health is this whole light piece. So let me bring Nathan on the show. Nathan, if you guys haven't heard our previous show with him, he was on a few months back. I forget what the actual show number that he was on, but he's a lifestyle and health optimization coach. He has a BA in mathematics and 20 years in corporate America, but now he works with people on multiple levels of their health. So there's a lot of people out there, and we've talked to him on our show, who talk about different aspects of health, but Nathan really ties everything together from personal development to emotional, spiritual work to light, water, magnetism and the physics of our health, as well as obviously diet, nutrition, and exercise. So there's a lot of pieces that go into living a healthy, long life. And so Nathan works with people individually and creates and crafts like a program for you. And so he's been doing that for quite some time. And so I found him originally, I think, from doing some research on Dr. Jack Cruz years ago when he was on our show. And that's how I found Nathan. And I've been following his YouTube channel and his Facebook lives that he does every so often. So it's pretty cool. So let me bring him up and introduce him. Let's see here. All right, there you go. Hey, Nathan, what's up, man?
Hey, Justin, what's going on?
Oh,
Awesome to be back.
yeah. I'm so glad to have you back. I think our last show we did was pretty popular. I think a lot of people, listen to that. It's not even available on iTunes yet, but I think the YouTube version has quite a few hits, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. So really glad to see that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Like I was saying at the beginning of the show, I like your work and I like what you talk about because you cover so many different aspects of health and healing. And, we have a lot of people on to talk about maybe one thing, but as you know, real health and robust health really touches on emotions, spirituality, personal development, light, water, magnetism, detoxification, nutrition, all these things. And, you work with people, right, in this way and help people, sort of regain all of that, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome. And so So it says here that you let me bring this up. It says here you graduated from the corporate wellness specialist, but you also graduated from somewhere else too, I think, right? Is that correct?
You're talking about college?
Yeah, with nutrition. I think I was talking with you on the phone a while back, right? About
Oh
somewhere
yeah.
else.
So I went to the I did the was IIN, the
That's right.
Integrative School of Nutrition, or
Yeah,
the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. That's it.
that's what it was. I couldn't pull that up in my brain.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it took me a while too. It's been a couple years now.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I found you through the work of Dr. Jack Cruz, and that was cool. So I've been following your stuff, and you do some really cool videos. But I figured, let's do a show and expand more about light and how light affects us because um, we have this, Extreme Health Academy, and we get a lot of people in there asking about light and how to mitigate light and all the different questions that come up about that. So maybe what we'll do is we'll pop in and out of the chat room that we have going on YouTube. But just to start out, like let's talk a little bit about just the basics here again, so that people are reminded, blue light and what it does to our circadian rhythms and how it affects our biology. And let's start there, and then I think we can kind of move people more up to speed with some of the more current stuff.
Yeah. So it turns out blue light is very damaging to humans, and today more than ever, I mean, it's completely ubiquitous, right? So it's in all of our screens, our TVs, our computers, our our tablets, our smartphones. It's in energy efficient lighting. So it's everywhere. And not only do we have a blue light detector in our eyes, it's called melanopsin, but it's also in our skin as well. And so this blue light detector, it's hooked up to our major timepiece in our head, which is called our supracosmatic nucleus.
Uh-huh.
And that sets and controls our circadian rhythm. So blue light, when it goes into your eye, through evolution for literally millions of years of life, when different frequencies went into your eye, they were from the sun, and they told your body what time of day it was.
Okay.
And now when we wake up, a lot of people, the first thing they do, they look at their phone. A lot of people use their phone as their alarm clock. They wake up. Some people go straight to Instagram or Facebook. They want to see if they have new likes. Or
Yeah.
some people go on their email if they're like a hardcore workaholic, right? And that blue light from your phone, it has a color temperature, and that color temperature tells your brain that it's around noon. So if you want to get a little more specific, the color temperature on most phones is between 5,800 and 6,200 Kelvin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the color temperature at solar noon is 6,000 Kelvin. So when you do that, that signal goes through your eye into your brain, tells your brain it's noon, and your circadian rhythm controls all these different processes in your body. So the release of hormones, growth. So growth is like when you do some damage to your body has to repair that. And that's growth. That's growing new cells, or it's growing new hormones. Or when you go to the gym, you work out, you tear down your muscles have to regrow. So all that stuff, it's all controlled by your circadian rhythm, and blue light is throwing that off. So I could go on and on about the damage it causes, but I'll just go through kind of at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
So blue light, it causes inflammation. So when it goes into your eyes, it causes inflammation in your eyes. And we're seeing that kids younger and younger are having eye problems. So it starts with myopia, and then it gets worse from there. So a lot of kids, like in Asia, it's even worse because kids are they're on technology even more in Asia than they are here.
Uh-huh.
But if you look at the myopia rates in Asia, they're at like 96%.
Is that right?
This is for children.
Wow.
It's crazy. And in America, it's lower, but it's increased. I forget the exact amount. I think it's increased by 40% since the 90s.
Okay.
So don't quote me on that. It may not be 40%, or it may not be since the 90s, but it's gone up a huge, huge amount.
Okay.
So we're seeing children now getting all these eye diseases, or they're just becoming short-sighted. They're having to wear glasses. And the other thing we're seeing in our older population is a huge increase in age-related macular degeneration, AMD,
Mm-hmm.
which is now the number one cause of blindness in the US. So in the 90s, that wasn't a big deal. Today it is.
Mm-hmm.
So just looking at the eyeball, we're heading towards an epidemic of blindness in developed countries that A, have this technology everywhere as far as screens go, and then B, have shifted to more energy efficient lighting using LEDs and fluorescent light bulbs. Now, it's also inflammatory to your skin. So there's new research out that's showing that you can get cancer just from chronic blue light exposure. And it's worse at different times of the day than or more specifically, it's worse at night. So night shift workers, we've known for years, have higher rates of cancer. So the main cancers they've researched for that are breast cancer and prostate cancer. But breast cancer is the number one cancer in women. Prostate cancer is the number one cancer in men. People that work night shifts have much higher incidence of cancer. But also we're finding that it's very bad for the skin. It can cause skin cancer. It's also very bad for your thyroid. Normally, if I'm not doing a podcast, I have my neck covered. So either with a scarf or just wearing something that covers my neck, because your thyroid is right here. And blue light, it penetrates 1 to 3 centimeters. So blue light penetrates to the depth of your thyroid, and that causes inflammation. So I mentioned the circadian rhythm kind of briefly, but your circadian rhythm, like I said, it controls your growth. It controls your metabolism. So when your metabolism doesn't work, you have a hard time converting your food to energy. So metabolic diseases are diseases like diabetes, obesity, heart disease, cancer. Those are all metabolic diseases, and they're controlled by your metabolism is controlled by your circadian rhythm.
Interesting.
When you get this chronic blue light exposure, you increase your risk for these diseases.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Okay.
I just had I don't know if you could see, but last time, Nathan, the big takeaway from that I got was this melatonin production locally in the skin from sunlight, and so I started doing a bunch of research on blue light and its effects on the skin, and I just pulled up an article for those that are watching on YouTube about that. But Kate made me these. I'm going to pull the microphone away a little bit, but check this out. It's like a little.
Oh, nice.
It's like a little thyroid thing because I have a light that shines on me right here. And so I figure, if I'm going to be spending, I'm not sure how many hours per week I'm spending sitting in front of a computer like this, but I'm starting to now protect your thyroid because you said it could actually, blue light can penetrate 1 to 3 centimeters.
Yeah. So I spend a lot of time on the computer. I wear a scarf like this, and yours looks better. I actually didn't even realize you had yours on.
Uh-huh.
This looks a little goofy. So when I do podcasts, I take it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it penetrates 1 to 3 centimeters. It causes inflammation. So which if you look at hyperthyroidism, it's really high. It affects women more than men. And a lot of, if you have trouble with too much weight, it could be because of your thyroid. If you're losing your hair, or if your hair is thin and brittle, could be because of your thyroid. If you have problems sleeping or hot flashes, your thyroid can control so many different things. It's almost like your body's thermostat. So if you're cold all the time, it could be because you have a thyroid problem. And one thing that can cause that, is just chronic blue light exposure. So maybe you're on the computer all day. Maybe you work in a store or an office that has fluorescent light bulbs or LED light bulbs. And if that light shining, into your neck, it can inflame the thyroid and then cause challenge down the road. It doesn't just happen overnight. It takes some time to happen, but we're seeing these things show up sooner and sooner and sooner. So if you look at the health stats of kids, and I hate bringing this stuff up because it's so depressing,
I know.
but a third of children have obesity. I forget the percentage of kids that have chronic diseases, but it's outrageous. We're approaching $1 trillion a year in costs just for the healthcare of our children.
Wow. So
children should be healthy. Justin, we're about the same age. I'm a couple years older than you. When I was a kid, I don't know what it's like for you where you lived, but I grew up in upstate New York. When I was a kid, there was one kid in my class that had cancer. There were a couple fat kids.
Yeah.
But for the most part, kids were pretty healthy. There were some kids that had allergies, but it wasn't like today where you have, high rates of autism or, high rates of childhood cancer. or a third of kids being obese. So if they're obese as a kid, what's going to happen by the time they're an adult?
Uh-huh.
So you
I
have to
know.
kind of, people need to, it's kind of sad to say, but people need to kind of look at what's happening with our children and project that out, because our children are more sensitive to all of these things that we're exposed to ourselves.
Mm.
So it's showing up sooner in our children, but it's going to start to happen at a faster rate in adults too, as we're exposed to this more and more, and especially if we're not doing anything to protect ourselves and to mitigate against it.
Yeah, I mean, I see. When I was a kid, I don't think I knew anyone that had cancer when I was a kid, especially in like junior high or elementary school. I don't think the first person I knew someone in high school who had cancer. And then my mom, right after cancer or high school in '95, was diagnosed with cancer, and then that brought it more toward to our family. But I didn't really know anybody that had cancer. I didn't know anybody that had ADD or diabetes or food allergies. It's interesting because
Hmm.
I think I first heard of autism like in the late '90s, well after school. Like I had never even heard of
Yeah,
autism before. It's crazy, right?
yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah. I know so many kids are so sick these days, and I'll walk by, like, in our neighborhood, I'll walk our dog, and we'll see, little kids inside their garage, playing video games. And I look at I look at the TV, and it's like this giant TV, but it's obviously all just blue light, and they're sitting in front of the TV in the garage playing video games. And I don't know what happened, man. You and we used to be out, playing and running around, you know?
Yeah, riding our bikes and climbing up trees, and you know
Yeah.
I I grew up in a rural area. My closest friend lived 3 miles away. So
Wow.
I did have a neighbor actually. I could like walk through the fields.
Uh
He was
huh.
a little bit older, but like my like good friend that was my age, he was like 2.5, 3 miles away. I had to ride my bike there, and it was really no big deal. That's just what we did. During the wintertime, I couldn't do it, but during the summer, we would take turns riding back and forth with our bikes. Now, today, I mean, and this is very young, but today, most parents are afraid to let their children do that. I'd be afraid to let my child do that just with all the crazy stuff going on in the world.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's a very different, you bring up a good point, Justin. It's a very, very different world that we live in today.
Yeah, it's such a different world, and different things to sort of worry about if for lack of a better term, but it's a completely different world. Especially with all this screen time now with kids. And I know last time I think you mentioned that with your little guy, you limit and regulate his screen time, and you have him wear the blue blocking glasses, which you and I are both wearing right now. Um, but so going back to the blue light piece, is it because the frequency is so high, like it's a much higher frequency than red light, which is a more calming frequency, like the frequency waves are so intense and it's so like excitable? Is that why blue light tends to penetrate the skin a little bit more and affect your eyes more? Is that why it's causing the myopia in the eyes and all that stuff? What do you think it is?
Yeah, well, it's very high energy. So red light actually penetrates your skin much deeper. Red
Okay.
light can penetrate up to 30 centimeters.
Oh
So
wow.
it doesn't penetrate as deeply into bone, but if you have, fat or muscle, it penetrates pretty deeply into there. So blue light, it doesn't penetrate as deeply, but it's the highest energy frequency of light in the visible spectrum.
Oh, interesting.
So the and blue light is in the sun too. So blue light is not a bad thing in nature, because when you get blue light from the sun, it's balanced with these other colors of light. And red light is very regenerative. And that's why I'm sure you've had people on your show, Justin, that talk about photobiomodulation or
Mm-hmm.
low level light therapy,
Mm-hmm.
using specific frequencies of red light to regenerate your skin or to speed up muscle recovery. It's very big in professional sports. It's big. A lot of vets are using it now too. I hear about more vets using it on animals than doctors using it on humans. But beauticians use it. It's really good for your skin. Some places women go to for, get a haircut, they'll put them in front of like a red light thing in their face because it's good for their skin too. But this blue light that we're getting from our screens, from all these, from energy efficient light bulbs, it doesn't have any of the red light in it. So, like an incandescent light bulb, which is being phased out, that has a lot of red light. If you put your hand close to it, you can feel the heat. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
good thing.
Yeah,
because you're
yeah.
getting that red light, which helps to regenerate. But if you put your hand on your screen, there's no heat. If you put your hand on like an LED light bulb or a fluorescent light bulb, there's no heat because it's mostly blue light. So it's that very high energy, that amount of high energy, it causes inflammation, and it's not balanced by the red, which helps to regenerate or counterbalance it.
Hmm. Now, is
So,
it?
but it's a couple. Oh, go on.
No, no. I'm just curious because I think I've heard Dr. Cruz explain it in a way where, like, his stuff is so high level. But is it like stretching out the respiratory proteins in the mitochondrial membrane, and then that causes a greater distance that the electrons have to travel to go across that membrane, and then because of that distance, the body needs to create more ATP, and then if your body's trying to create ATP for all of these, trillions of mitochondria, then it doesn't have that same energy to fight off an infection or to prevent a chronic disease. Is that the idea? Like it stretches those proteins out, and is that what happens with myopia? And is that kind of what's going on there?
Yeah, well, so you touched on a couple different things there, Justin, and the gist of it was right. So essentially, that's inflammation. So what Dr. Cruz is talking about when he's talking about the respiratory proteins being stretched out. So in your mitochondria, you have five of them,
Uh-huh.
and what your mitochondria are doing is they're extracting electrons from your food. So at the end of the day, when you eat food, they're broken down into electrons and protons. So you as your mitochondria tunnel electrons through these respiratory protons or proteins,
Uh-huh.
it gets to the end to the fifth cytochrome or fifth protein, and that's actually it's called the ATPase, and it spins. It
Okay.
spins at when you're healthy, when it's working well, it spins at 9,000 revolutions per minute. So it's faster than like most car engines. It's spinning
Wow.
really, really fast, right? And as it spins, it's creating ATP. That's how you make ATP. Now, what happens as you spread out your respiratory proteins from different sources of inflammation, which can be blue light or can be a chemical, can be bad food, things like that. But as it stretches it out, you decrease your efficiency. So every 1 angstrom between these respiratory proteins, and to give people an idea of how tiny an angstrom is, so most people know how small a millimeter is, right? It's
Uh-huh.
like super small.
Mm-hmm.
There are a million nanometers in a millimeter.
Okay.
So a nanometer is pretty tiny, right? There are 10 angstroms in a nanometer. So do you have a good visual on like how tiny an
Yeah,
angstrom is?
that
It's
is.
like incomprehensibly small.
Uh-huh.
So for every 1 angstrom that your respiratory proteins spread out, you're decreasing your efficiency of creating energy by a factor of 10, by tenfold.
Whoa.
So you're making less ATP. And like you said, when you have less ATP, you have less energy to do the things you need to do, such as feel energetic, such as repair your body when you have damage, such as create new hormones, such as, regulate all the things your body does, like breathing, like pumping your blood.
Uh-huh. So when these electrons travel across the mitochondrial membrane and they get tunneled through, is it their final destination is that fifth cytochrome, and then that cytochrome uses those electrons to spin, and then if it doesn't get enough, like if the distance between those cytochromes is more than 1 angstrom, does that mean that less electrons funnel all the way through and get to that fifth cytochrome, and then because there's less electrons there, it doesn't spin as fast, or it has to work harder to spin more? What's the end result, I
It
wonder?
doesn't spin as fast. So they're going through slower. You're
Ah,
slowing down the process. So
okay.
if you imagine like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory cranking out candy bars, and all of a sudden it slowed down to 1/10 of its speed, you'd
Oh,
have a
okay.
lot less candy bars, right?
Yeah. Not good.
Yeah, not good. I mean,
Yeah.
and so you have trillions of mitochondria in your body. So an individual mitochondria doesn't make a whole lot of energy, but when you add it all up, it makes a whole lot of energy. But when you have these mass amounts of inflammation slowing down all of your mitochondria, and you're making far less energy than you need for your body's needs, it's kind of like on your smartphone. When your battery runs low and you need to be able to use your phone to make calls, you're not going to use the other features on your phone,
Mm.
right? Some people, when your battery gets really low, you'll go through and you're like, oh, let me close out these applications
Right,
because I want
right.
to make my battery as efficient as possible. But
Mm-hmm.
when your body doesn't make enough energy, your body has to shut down different applications. So one of the core applications for you to stay alive is breathing, is pumping your blood through your veins.
I
But it
see.
shuts down other things like hormone production. Then you have lower hormones, and all of a sudden you're gaining weight and it's harder to put on muscle,
I see.
or you're having a hard time sleeping at night, or your hair is just becoming very brittle and thin. That's because your body is shutting down different processes. It can't
Uh,
run everything. It doesn't have enough energy to do
Interesting.
to meet all the demands of the body. And here's the other thing: your brain is an energy hog. Your brain uses 20% of your body's energy, but it's only 2% of your body,
Mm.
the brain itself. So when your body's not making enough energy, it shows up in the brain pretty quick. And in some people, it shows up as brain fog. In some people, it shows up as they just can't focus. They have poor concentration. Other people get depressed. Other people get anxiety. Other people, if this goes on too long, you get Alzheimer's, you get Parkinson's.
Yeah.
When it happens in a developing child, that's autism.
So what I'm wondering is, like you mentioned before, that a lot of different things can sort of extend or cause those respiratory proteins to be stretched out. So what I'm wondering is, like, when it comes to like chemicals, poisons, probably even negative thoughts or negative thinking or toxins you're exposed to, whatever the case may be, and then also the blue light piece, right, or the inflammation from any kind of light that's not natural. So I'm wondering if you were to stack all of those up, in terms of importance, or I guess in terms of how much they actually damage that respiratory tunneling of those electrons along the membrane. I'm wondering, like, if you were to do a 1 through 10, is light the number one issue that causes ATP to not spin as fast and to create as much energy, or are they all kind of the same, but light just happens to be so much a part of our life that it affects us and we don't even know it, kind of thing?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Justin. I would say just, I've never kind of thought about it that way, but yeah, I would say light is definitely at the top of the list because it controls everything.
Mm.
So it all goes back to your circadian rhythm, which controls your growth, your metabolism, your hormones. And they have a whole new branch of science. I won't get into it too deeply, but it's called optogenetics, where they use a very specific frequency of light to increase hormone production in the brain or to create more of a neurotransmitter. In one of the studies I saw, they're using it on rats. They get the rats addicted to it was like methamphetamine or cocaine, some highly addictive drug. And just by shining these frequencies of light in the rat's brain, the rat is no longer addicted to this drug,
Oh my
just using one
goodness.
frequency of light. And if you think about all the different frequencies of light in the spectrum from the sun that we're exposed to, it's a lot of different frequencies. So all those frequencies are controlling different things, and they
Wow.
cause our cells to resonate and to. So all these different, we have these different proteins, we have these biogenic amines, these amino acids
Mm-hmm.
that absorb different frequencies of light, and depending on the frequency of light, they make different things. So yeah, light's definitely at the top of the list. But
Mm-hmm.
these other things matter too, Justin.
Yeah.
So I like the way I like to break it down is that there the number one so the number one cause of disease, well, is mitochondrial dysfunction, but it's also inflammation. So when you have inflammation, your mitochondria don't work as well.
Uh-huh.
So I like to say there are three main sources of inflammation. There's diet, so things you put in your body. There is your environment, so things you're exposed to, like your light environment,
Mm-hmm.
things you can't see, smell, or taste, different chemicals that you're breathing in. You can't smell them, but they're chemicals are causing inflammation. Chemicals in your water, you drink water, it tastes like water, but maybe there's lead in there, for example. EMFs, electromagnetic fields, and then stress. And stress has two sides. There's external stress, being in a relationship with someone that's mean to you, or physically or mentally abusive, having a mean boss. Then there's internal stress, you just kind of beating up on yourself and being like, oh, I'm such an idiot and such a fat ass,
Uh-huh.
whatever. So I like to kind of break it down with those three things. And then there's also infections too, which is kind of like a fourth one.
Uh-huh.
But if you kind of look at those areas, and if you can identify what is your weak link.
Mm.
So maybe you have a very good environment, maybe you're outside a lot, But if you have a lot of stress in your life and you're not managing that, that's going to cause inflammation. That's going to impair your mitochondrial function. That's going to show up as some kind of symptom and eventually disease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is such fascinating information. It's funny because I've been in the health field since 2003, and it wasn't until Jack Cruz came on our show maybe 5 years ago that I really started understanding how impactful and how important the light piece of it all was. And, I see a lot of people, especially health sort of gurus, around, and they're, in a toxic blue lit environment, not protecting themselves, and then they're taking pictures outside, and then they have their sunglasses on and shoes on, and it's like, I don't want to judge, but it's this whole idea of reconnecting back to nature is so key, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%, Justin. And I think it's good that you call that out. I think it has to be called out because if you're calling yourself a health professional, taking doctors out, but just people like you and me that are trying to educate people on things that they can do to improve their health. The only thing you're talking about is like green smoothies and food. You're missing the mark, and that needs to be called out. You need to really understand, how does the body work? What really controls all these functions in your body that make you healthy? It's light. And if you don't understand that it's light, and if you don't understand that going outside and wearing sunglasses all the time is going to impact your health, then you're potentially doing more harm than good. Because all the green smoothies in the world, all the freaking tofu hot dogs or whatever, kind of latest health trend, keto bars or whatever, that stuff is not going to save you if you're chronically exposed to bad light. If you're in an office with no windows, you're on a computer, you're under fluorescent lights, you're not protecting your eyes, you're not getting sun breaks. It doesn't matter. Like all these other things, they're not going to have a positive impact if you're not addressing the thing that's at the top of the list. It's like another analogy, Justin, it's like knowing the rules of the game. So in football, it's the most points scored. It's not the most yards run. It's not the most passes thrown and caught, right? It's whoever scores the most. It's not the most base hits in baseballs. It's the most runs, right? If you don't know the rules of the game, you're going to lose. Right. And so the rule of the game for health is what's at the top that controls our health, and that's light. So I think it's great that you called that out. That does have to be called out more, because people need to wake up to what really matters and what's going to make an impact, what's going to make a difference, and what is just kind of causing people to spin their wheels and spend a lot of money kind of chasing that fix that's going to get them better.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important. I think we need to continue to call that out, because there's still so many people that are so focused on food. And I hope you guys are enjoying the show with Nathan Walz. His website is Journey to Optimal Health. And I'll put that on the screen in just a second. So this is a really, really cool show. And I'm really for me, it's really important for me to bring and start and educate people about light, because it's been the number one thing that I've changed in my life since starting the show. And since getting into all this crazy stuff back in 2003, it's been the light piece. And as I learn more, I continue to optimize and do better with regards to light. So I think it's just so important. This is episode 643. So we will put all the links to everything we talk about. I shared that article just a second ago about blue light on your skin. I think they called it Netflix face, which was interesting. And so I'll share that as well as a link to Nathan's website, Journey to Optimal Health. And speaking of food, I mean, food is very important. And obviously, it's really, really important to get a good handle on your diet. And like Dr. Cruz says, that, food is basically a repository for light. So when we're eating food, and that's the same work as Adam Bergstrom talks about, chronobiotic nutrition, eating with the sun and the angle that the sun hits the food. So all of this stuff is tied to photosynthesis, and a lot of people are talking about it. So it's really, really key. And we like supporting Mr. Daniel Vitalis. He's been on the show about 4 or 5 times, and if you're subscribed to our iTunes feed, he's on there right now. So let me play this little clip from him on the shaga mushroom, which is one of my favorites.
Chaga has been praised for centuries for its potent, immune-supporting mycochemistry and its rich antioxidant profile. Now, more than ever, antioxidants and immune-boosting medicinal mushrooms are essential allies for thriving in the modern world. Surthrival's dual extraction process combines chaga's immune-modulating, water-soluble beta-glucans and its alcohol-extracted antioxidant terpenes into one potent product. Blended with organic maple syrup and rich Tahitian vanilla bean, it's reminiscent of a cordial, delicious by itself or as an addition to your favorite drink.
Good old Daniel Vitalis. I love that guy. Yeah, it just makes me laugh listening to him. I think he's such a cool guy, and I love the work that he does there at Surthrival. We support him. We love his Chaga Reishi. They're dual extraction, which means they're extracted using two beneficial compounds. One is water. So he uses spring water to extract a lot of the medicinal compounds, but then he also uses a grape alcohol, organic grape alcohol. So that's really amazing too for helping to pull out those terpenes and those beta glucans and things like that. So we take his Chaga, his Reishi, really, really good stuff. So make sure if you guys are watching this and you want to try some of his Chaga, if you want to try some of his Reishi mushroom, good stuff. I'm telling you guys, you will love the stuff, and the benefits just go on and on. That's why Chaga is known as the king of mushrooms. And so let me bring up this little clip too. If you want to combine it with this really great Stockton Aloe 1, this stuff is it's so crazy because there's so many great products out there. And if you guys have been to the health food store, you probably look at the back of different aloe vera products and you see they have all these different chemicals in them and different ingredients. Stockton Aloe 1 is just pure harvested, 100% organic, 100% raw, flash frozen. It comes to you frozen. It's really a great product. Tremendous for healing the digestive system, for lowering inflammation in the body. And here's what Dr. Donnie Wilson, who was recently on our show, had to say about aloe vera.
And then I encourage, we can talk more about this. What do I do to help people speed up the healing of leaky gut?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mentioned aloe before,
Mm-hmm.
and that is one of the herbs that I definitely recommend, using for helping to heal leaky gut. You want to use herbs that are anti-inflammatory and soothing and healing to the intestinal lining. So aloe is a great one.
Yeah, it's really tremendous, and it's got so many different, immune modulating compounds. There's over 75 different active ingredients, from vitamins, minerals, enzymes, amino acids, and this weird sort of tricky, I call it a little tricky substance, but it's something called ormus, and ormus is like a long chain polysaccharide, and we've done a whole show on ormus before. We should probably revisit that, but it's a magical substance, and aloe vera is antifungal, it's antibacterial, it's antimicrobial. It's incredible for just soothing the digestive tract. It's really cool. So this Stockton Aloe 1 was developed by a guy named Rodney Stockton. He was this sort of owner of the company, and he lived till he was like 96 years old. And of course, he says he credits his longevity to, of course, Stockton, Aloe 1, but, it's probably a multitude of different things that he was doing. But in any event, it's the original superfood. I mean, aloe vera is just incredible substance. So if you guys want to check it out, they'll send you a little face cream to go along with it that contains aloe. It's pretty cool stuff. So if you want to improve your gut, improve your immune system, lower inflammation in the body, it's a great substance to consume on a daily basis. So if you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description for the Chaga, the Reishi, and Daniel Vitalis also has, I think, colostrum and a bunch of other really cool products that we take as well over at Surthrival. So make sure to check those out, as well as the Stockton Aloe 1 as well. And one of the things I wanted to ask Nathan that I've been thinking about lately with regards to food and light is this idea that, how a lot of people will cleanse their bodies, like they'll do a colon cleanse, or they'll do these different types of cleanses because of the accumulated toxins that build up in your liver, say, or your colon, and that type of thing. And I'm wondering, people have mentioned recently like this toxic blue light buildup, and I'm wondering, do we accumulate, like, how they say that you can store food in your colon for 30 years if it, becomes undigested and it putrefies. And I'm wondering if the same holds true with light. And Nathan, do you think that that's actually a possibility? Can we have a toxic blue light storage, build up in our body that sort of, or does it just cause damage and then we just deal with the effects of the damage for the rest of our lives?
Justin, that's a really good question. So, we have melanin, which is able to, it absorbs all frequencies of light, and it kind of stores them. So when you're sleeping, your body has to do repair. Your body has these different frequencies of light that it can use to create the hormones or the cells or whatever it needs to create. Okay. But as far as just your body, just like building up too much blue light, I don't know about that, but I think it's a really good idea to do a digital detox. And camping is a great way to do that. Leave your phones in the car, just limit yourself to, I don't know, 30 minutes of phone time a day or whatever.
Yeah.
But just going someplace where you get away from these lights, because they're literally everywhere. But I've never thought of it like that before. Like, how much, is your body storing up these frequencies of light? But either way, it's going to do you a lot of benefit to get away from the light and just go out and reconnect with nature. Listen to the crickets chirp at night and the campfire crackle.
Yeah,
right?
it's a big deal, right? To get reconnected and to put your phone down and just look at the sun as it rises and be connected to the earth. And man, I tell you that the whole phone thing for people is it's quite an addiction, isn't it? It's crazy.
Oh, it's huge. It's funny. My son, Justin and I were talking about our children before we started, but my son, he's 2.5. He loves hockey, and they had one of our friends' children plays hockey, and they had a game at Cornell, which is it's a big university where I live. And I was driving through the campus, and Justin, I swear, almost every person I saw was walking through campus with their eyes glued to their phone.
Oh, wow.
I didn't see like people hanging out talking. One girl actually almost got run over by me and a car coming the other way. She walked right across the street we had a green light. She walked right across the street, didn't even look up from her phone. Me and the other car both like slammed on our brakes. Wow. But it's just, I'm just looking at these people. I'm like, the zombie apocalypse is kind of here a little bit. It's like different than what they show on TV. But you just have all these people walking around just glued to their phones, having very limited social interactions.
Yeah, don't they call that in isn't there a name for that in China? They have like a low sex drive. I forget, it's got a name, like this idea of
Celibacy Syndrome.
That's right, Celibacy Syndrome. That's crazy. And that's affecting a lot of people in China, is that right?
Well, in Japan, but probably across Asia, and it's showing up here too. I mean, Justin, just go and do a search and like look at infertility. Infertility is growing just like all these other chronic diseases. So chronic use of your phone, especially, this is a really good point you bring up. A lot of guys carry their phones in their front pocket, right next to their nuts, right? That's where you make not just your sperm. So a lot of guys, they tell this to, they're like, why don't we have kids anyway? Like, okay, you might not want to have kids, but you also make your testosterone there too. And you need testosterone if you want to put on muscle, if you want to have motivation, drive, things like that. So, I saw somebody I'm related to, I don't want to like call them out on this thing, but he was a very young child related to me, and he had his phone in his pocket. And I'm like, you do realize you're frying your nuts. And he got all embarrassed. And some of my family members are like, you shouldn't talk like that. Like, yeah, but nobody else is telling these kids that this thing they have in their pocket is harming their reproductive system before it's even had a chance to develop. Right?
Yeah, I see it with women.
Yeah, I mean, all just blue light in itself is behind celibacy syndrome, where people, in their young 20s, when their sex drive should be very high, are not having sex. People are having fewer kids, and leads to all sorts of challenges, especially with so many countries in this world being socialist. When you have a shrinking population, that just wrecks that whole model.
Yeah, I know. It's a huge issue. Let's pop over to the chat room and see if there's anybody there that wants to ask a question. If you guys have any questions about light in general, sunlight or artificial light, or maybe some, what's the best light at night, any kind of light questions at all, make sure to type them in all caps in the chat room, and I'll go through right now, and we'll go through some of these. Proctor says there is a blue light filter on some phones. What does IDK mean? It's like an acronym or something.
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how effective that is, though. So blue light filter that comes built into these phones. I haven't messed around much with those. Have you?
It's pretty limited. Let me show you something real quick.
Yeah.
So on iPhone, it's called Night Shift, which during the day it's going to help, but at night you're still getting blue light. However, and then on Android, there's an app called Twilight. I think it might be built into the Android system now.
Oh,
So
okay.
you are reducing the damage you're doing, but at the same time, you're still getting some blue light. So if you think you're protected at night because you have your blue light reducer on your phone on, you're still getting blue light. That's going to reduce your melatonin, and it's going to decrease the quality of your sleep. Your body's not going to regenerate as well, and it's going to lead to issues over time. But there's this thing you can do
Oh, yeah.
on an iPhone where you can take out all the red.
Yeah, I have the
So
same.
you can put in,
I have this like a similar thing here. Can you see that? It's about kind of red as well. I don't know if you
yeah,
can see
okay.
that.
That looks pretty red.
But yeah, so you can do color filters and it turns off, but and then you can turn it. So it's like a shortcut that you can do, right?
Yeah, so on iPhone, there's like a triple click where you can do a shortcut. So for mine, I have my triple click, which activates the all red tint on my phone. So if I'm using it at night, I do have blue blockers on too, but you're reducing the blue light on your skin too. So it's a good idea to do, but the ones that are just built into the phone don't take it quite far enough.
Okay. Judith wants to know, so you and I both are wearing yellow glasses today. A lot of times I wear my orange ones during the shows just because I'm only, on the show here for like an hour, hour and a half, or 2 hours at the most. But Judith wants to know, are your yellow shades to combat the blue light problems?
Yeah, exactly. So these glasses block up to 450 nanometer light, which is blue light. Now, during the day, you do want blue light because blue light, it does good things. It sends a signal to your brain to wake you up. It increases your cortisol. So if you have a lot of work to do and stuff, wearing orange glasses, if it's just an hour or so, it's probably not going to be a big deal. But if you wear orange glasses all day, you're reducing your color spectrum. That's also going to throw off your hormones. So you do want to get exposure to as much of the color spectrum as you can during the day. But if you're on the computer a lot by wearing yellow glasses, you are reducing a lot of that blue light. Now, the blue light detector in your eye that I mentioned earlier, melanopsin, the frequencies of light that affected the most are between 435 and 465.
Okay.
So if I were to make, if I owned a blue light blocking glasses company, I would have it block up to 465, not just 450. That's just me personally.
For the yellow glasses, you mean?
Yeah. Just because so screens, they peak. If you look at the spectrum of light from a screen, it peaks at 455 nanometers. So you're blocking some of that light, but some of it's still getting through the lens.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So for me, I think if I will wear these, if I will do something, like a show, if it's 2 hours max or hour and a half show 3 times a week, typically I'll wear my orange ones. But, if I were working, Nathan, tell me if you think this is correct. If I were working all day in a blue lit environment, the best option would be the yellow ones during the day, right? Because like you said, if you're wearing the orange, you're blocking some of these frequencies that you actually need, right?
Yeah, you're blocking a bigger part of the spectrum, and during the day, you're exposed to those frequencies anyway.
Okay.
So by just wearing yellow, you're blocking out, kind of the most damaging part of the spectrum, but you're still getting the beneficial parts. So you're still getting green light, for example, but at night, green light can actually shut off your melatonin production too. It's not just blue light. Green light impacts it too.
Mm-hmm. Have you messed around much with the glasses? Because I know both you and I are connected up with Raw Optics and Andy Mant's company, Blue Blocks, and these ones here are True Dark. Have you messed around much with the ones that are clear? I'm not sure. Like, I think Blue Box has them.
So there's a couple different kinds.
Yeah.
So a lot of the clear lenses don't block too much. So there's some glasses that's called AR, and I have a pair of them. I bought them before I knew any better.
Okay.
And if you've ever talked to somebody and you can see like a blue reflection on the lens, it's an anti-reflective coating, but it only blocks up to like 410 nanometers. So you're not getting like the part of blue light that impacts your melanopsin.
I see.
So those don't do a whole lot. Blue Tech lenses has a pigment in the lens, so they have a slight tint to them.
Blue Tech.
This is like a knockoff brand. Some company just sent these to me for free to try them out.
Okay.
But these have like a pigment in the lens too.
Okay.
But Blue Tech lenses actually filters blue light, whereas like a colored lens blocks blue light because the color prevents certain frequencies of light from going through, so it blocks it. Whereas clear lenses, if they're good, if they have the pigment, they filter it out.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So you don't want to get just any clear lens. You want to make sure if you are getting a clear lens, it's Blue Tech, or they could have some competitors now that also have this pigment. But Blue Tech actually does have published research backing up that by wearing Blue Tech lenses, you're increasing your body's melatonin production by 96%. And in fact, there's a big lawsuit going on in the UK because these optometrists, they're selling glasses telling people that they're blocking blue light, but they're just the anti-reflective lens. Somebody with a spectrometer tested them out and showed they didn't. Now there's a huge lawsuit going on over there. It's probably going to come over here next. But it's in the UK right now.
That's crazy. Yeah. So I put this on our Instagram the other day, I think yesterday, and you can probably see it on the screen. And this was a sort of a little infographic. If you're watching or if you're listening on the podcast version, I'll put a link to this photo in the show notes, extremehealthradio.com/643, I believe. But it talks about the melatonin suppression with different bulbs that people use. And I think you mentioned before, most indoor lighting is around 6,000 Kelvin, 6,500 sometimes. And then it goes down from LED bulbs to fluorescent lamps to incandescent, candlelight, and then candlelight style OLEDs. And it's interesting because melatonin, like, we're sold sort of this bill of goods that melatonin is like the sleep hormone, but in the research I've been looking at, like, it's the number one anti-cancer hormone that we make in our own bodies. It's like, it's not just this idea of like, oh, get a better sleep. I mean, that's great, and obviously we need sleep to regenerate. But it kind of reminds me of that same idea with regards to cannabis and cancer. They'll say, oh, cannabis is really great for mitigating the side effects of chemotherapy, because chemotherapy is sort of that's the actual treatment. So to mitigate the effects of that, you take cannabis. When in reality, and in some of the research, people are taking cannabis in place of chemotherapy altogether, but they kind of don't want you to know that. And the same way with melatonin, like, they sell you it as a sleep hormone, but there are literally thousands of processes, including being anti-cancer, that are way more important, in my opinion, than just sleep.
Yeah, so many good points there, Justin. Yeah, melatonin does a whole lot of things. It controls your mitochondrial function. So when you suppress your melatonin, not only do you not sleep as well, your mitochondria don't work as well. It's anti-cancer, like you mentioned. It's probably the third most important antioxidant in your brain. So it protects your brain as well. But taking oral melatonin and making your own is not the same. And so earlier we mentioned the top two cancers, breast cancer for women, prostate for men. Women with breast cancer have low local levels of melatonin in their breast. So if you want to avoid breast cancer and you're a lady, you're going to have to expose your breasts to the sun. And if you don't want to flash everyone, if you don't have privacy, you can buy a Kaniki, which is tan through swimwear. In men, the number one cancer for men is prostate. Where's your prostate? And how often do you get sun on your prostate?
Yeah.
So guys, you got to get a Kaneki too. Or if you're, able to go nude sunbathing, expose your prostate to the sun, because what are you doing? You're making local melatonin. You're making melatonin in your prostate. Melatonin's anti-cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so key, man. I did not realize that the body was able to make it locally in different areas. Like when you mentioned that on our last show, that was sort of groundbreaking to me because that sort of gave me more motivation to get naked in the sun. Because sometimes, you might have 3 or 4 different motivating factors to do something, but if you can have 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 different reasons why you do something, the first 9 may not motivate you, but it might be that last 10th one that actually gets you outside and gets you to go do it. And so when you understand that you can create melatonin locally in the skin, that was a game changer for me, for sure, because now I'm making sure to get my naked body in the sun as much as I possibly can. It's crazy.
Yeah, 100%. And Justin, so the other thing you're talking about marijuana. So, we have this thing in our body called the endocannabinoid system.
Uh-huh.
And it controls autophagy, which is mitochondrial repair, and apoptosis, which is cell death. So in cancer, what happens? You have a cell that refuses to die, and it mutates, and it grows. That's a tumor. And that's because autophagy is not working. So the program that tells your cell, like, you're fucked up, you have to kill yourself, that's not working. And it grows, and it gets bigger and bigger. So marijuana or, CBD, and I'm not telling people, like, just go out and smoke a bunch of weed. But if you have cancer, I think it would be a wise thing to do. But CBD will also work because that also controls it. But the way you make your own internal cannabinoids is from the sun. So by getting more sun exposure, you're making those cannabinoids that are helping control your mitochondria to repair themselves and to kill themselves when it makes sense for them to kill themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gosh, it's so complex, all this stuff. It's interesting. Lisek, nice name, Lisek, says here, the best filter for EMF, blue light, and so on is from Iris Tech from Bulgaria for tablet, laptop, and iPhone. Yeah, Nathan, you and I both use the Iris Tech. It's interesting because on this computer here, this is my production PC that I use for the shows, and like I can't use Iris on this show because the replay of it will just be completely orange, so it's not good for the show. So that's why I have to cover up and wear all this stuff. But you're a big fan of Iris. I use it. I couldn't live without that software. What do you think about that stuff?
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. I used to use FLux before, but then I heard what's the guy's name? Daniel. Mm-hmm. I heard Daniel on a podcast. Maybe it was Ben Greenfield, and I decided to check it out. And it's superior to FLux, but it's a really good program. And yes, sometimes when I'm doing work, if I'm putting together like a presentation or something, I'll turn it off just so I can see like the true color of slides. But it's amazing when you get used to Iris and then you go to somebody else's computer that doesn't have it. It's like, it's blinding.
I know, it's totally blind. It's funny because I made the little thumbnail image for today's show, and I was using Iris. So I have my Iris settings, I think, in the daytime, it's 1500 Kelvin as far as the blue light. And at night it's 0, Kelvin. I turned it all the way down to orange. But when I was making the thumbnail, it was on 1500 Kelvin, so I could still see some different colors. But the text of the thumbnail I thought was white. I did it in Photoshop, but it turns out it was yellow, and I had no idea. But that's sometimes the problems with Iris, right? Is that you don't see the colors unless you turn it off. But I mean, it's a great program.
Yeah, really good. So if you have a job that requires you to accurately see colors and you can't do Iris, then blue tech lenses would be the way for you to go, because that's not gonna, these yellow lenses, it alters my color perception.
Ah, okay.
It alters the way color looks in my eyes. So if you have a job, because I talked to some people that they use Photoshop for their job, they're graphic artist, or they have some kind of job where they need to accurately see the colors, then blue tech lenses are the way to go, because that's not going to change the way colors look, and you're still going to be protecting your eyes from the blue light.
That's interesting. Yeah, we're not connected up with Blue Tech, but I'm looking at their website now, and it looks like it's just...
I can put you in touch with them. I'm friends with the owner. He's a really great guy.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, he might be kind of cool because I'm looking to get a lot of people, a lot of different perspectives on this whole light piece because it's so diverse and there's so many different ways of dealing with it. And I think that the education just needs to get out there more and more. But I'm looking here, if you guys are watching on the YouTube version is this the right website, right? bluetechlenses.com?
Yeah, that's the right website. If you go to where to buy, you can put in your zip code, and it'll bring up the places where you can get them in your area.
So these lenses will be sold at like optometrists and stuff?
Yeah. So
Really?
so for some people, if you have really good vision insurance, it might be cheaper to get them through your optometrist than to buy a pair of, these are raw optics. I also have Blue Tech lenses, and they're a very quality blue blocker, but they are kind of a little expensive for some people. So if you have really good vision insurance, that could be a cheaper option, or just something that's worth exploring for sure.
That's really interesting. So how do you use Blue Tech lenses? Do you still use them on a daily basis?
No, I have some prescription, because I wear prescription glasses. So on the computer, I don't need them. I need them for distance.
I see. Okay.
So I do wear I have prescription raw optics,
Okay.
but I only wear those like if I'm driving at night or something.
Uh-huh.
But when I'm on the computer, it actually, when I wear my glasses on the computer, my prescription glasses, it's a little harder for me to see. So I'm better just wearing, non-prescription glasses.
Yeah, I'm such a big fan of just buying a ton of different, these types of glasses. I have those Uvex ones from Amazon, and I have those laying around the house. And those are cool too because they're, they don't look good, but they're nice to have when you're just like, okay, I got to go out to the garage really quick and there's fluorescent lights in the garage. Got to throw something on. If I accidentally drop them or something, they're not, the ones you and I are wearing are expensive, and I treat them like royalty. I don't want to scratch them, and I don't want to drop them and stuff. It's like,
yeah.
So those, it's good to have. I have a pair here that I keep in the studio. I have a pair I keep in the bathroom. I'm just such a big fan of trying as many of these different companies out, and I like all of them, and they're all great in their own way. And so, how many different pairs do you have?
I have quite a few, just because I've written a few articles on blue light. So different lens makers will send me their glasses just to try out. But I have, the first pair I got were some Uvex lenses. So if you're on the fence and you're just like, oh, it sounds a little weird and I don't want to invest $100 in a pair of glasses, spend $10 and get some Uvex glasses. And if you sit on them or scratch them, it's not going to be a big deal. Uh-huh. Now, the one thing with Uvex is they block up to 500 nanometers light. Both my raw optics and my blue blocks block up to 550 nanometers. So that covers a wider spectrum. And at night, I've noticed an improvement in my sleep when I made the shift from wearing just my Uvex to my raw optics or my blue blocks. Uh-huh. But I have some other brands. I can't remember the name. One of the other brands I have, it kind of looks a little bit like Uvex. It's a little more expensive, but they use a higher quality plastic. Uh-huh. So the lens quality is better. Okay. So if you get some Uvex and just like they're okay, but it's a little hard to see out of them, there are some other options in the $30, $40, $50 range, which is going to be higher quality and kind of look a little better too.
Yeah, I'm such a big fan. I think the biggest thing that I've done for my health is buy and be a connoisseur of these glasses and wear them. I'm at night when when it turns into basically all day long, if I'm indoors, I'm wearing these yellow ones if there's light on indoors in the daytime. And then definitely when the sun sets, my eyes are protected 100% of the time all the way until I go to sleep. And it's one of the biggest things you can do to improve your health. Let's go through some of these more.
Hey, Justin, not only that, but if you wake up before the sun rises, you want to wear them too.
Oh, right. Okay. So if you were to get up before the sun rises, which, by the way, on our last Free for All Friday show, I read the article you wrote on Facebook about being a morning riser or a night owl. And so that was a really good article. I shared with our listeners. But if you were to get up in the morning, and would you put on the yellow ones or would you put on the orange ones?
I put on the orange ones because when I wake up, it's still pitch dark. Well,
Okay.
it should be pitch dark, but out in the parking lot, there's all these LED street lights, which are
Oh.
just super bright. So I put them on, and another thing I do is I put a hat on too,
Uh-huh.
because I'm protecting my skin. Like I have a window right over here, so I expose my skin during the day because I have the window cracked, and I'm getting natural full spectrum light on me, in addition to the light from my computer.
Okay.
But when it's dark out, and when the sun is down, I have my skin covered. I wear a hat, and actually, some people have a concern about getting like blue light at night through the sides of your eyes.
Uh-huh.
And the way your eye works, it doesn't really affect it through the sides or the bottom. It does from the top. So a new thing that I've started doing is I wear a baseball cap, just like you have on,
Uh-huh.
at night. So I block that light from above if I'm in a restaurant or just driving, or walking outside at night, because the street lights are everywhere and they're all LED now, at least where I live, and they're freaking terrible.
I love it, man. You're such a Nazi about this stuff the same way I am. I love it. It's so good. It's so good. Well, we have a bunch of questions in the chat room, so let's bounce around a little bit from different subject matters to some of the questions. I wanted to ask you before, though, recently, now you may know this, and I just heard about it the other day, so you may or may not know, but this person was talking about there's now a glass, because certain glasses, or most glasses, will cut out, I think, UVA and UVB light or something. And this person was talking about how now there's a new kind of glass that allows full spectrum sunlight to go through it. Have you heard about that? Do you know anything about that?
Well, quartz glass will allow full spectrum light to go through it, but I have not heard of these new glasses. No. Do you know what they're called?
I don't know. I was listening to a podcast, and the guy was talking about it, and he had done some research because he was talking about building materials, and he was talking about magnacrete and what they build the Great Wall of China out of, and he was talking about mold reduction in the homes, and then he started talking about glass and how now in sunrooms there's this option now of having a full spectrum. All the frequencies of the sun come through the glass, and I thought, wow,
Oh, that is
could
awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it though. I feel like it's a new thing.
I haven't heard of it, but I'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
Thanks for the heads up on that.
Yeah, because I would like to get something like that for like a sunroom or something like that, or even just windows in the house or something. I think that would be really great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do. Larry wants to know a little bit about red light therapy. Where do I find when red light? Okay, so this is a different question. So Larry wants to know about red light therapy. It's a good question. So
that's the whole question.
Yeah, he doesn't. It doesn't expand much, but you elaborated a little bit about red light.
Yeah. So I would start off. It really depends on what you want to use it for. So some of like the key spectrums of light that people use red light therapy for is 660 nanometers. So you can go on Amazon, you can buy a UFO light, or you can buy a light bulb that's 660 nanometers. And that's going to be really good. Let's say you work out and your muscles are really sore. That's going to help with muscle recovery. That's pretty good for your skin. Now, if you have a bright light, you want to protect your eyes, because too much red light can actually cause cataracts, especially if it's too strong for your eyes. But you could just get like a cheaper 660 nanometer bulb, and you can use that on your skin, or you can use it for muscle recovery. Now, the one thing I want you to be aware of is there's this thing called a flicker effect. So LEDs, they flicker at something like 20,000 cycles per second. Mm-hmm. That flicker effect causes dehydration, and it does have some other deleterious effects on our biology. So you don't want to sit under one of these light bulbs close to you all day, because that can actually do more harm than good. Mm-hmm. But if you use it for 15 to 20 increments, you can get a benefit from that. So 660 is a big one. 850 nanometers, which is more infrared, that has other benefits. I think 850 is more for brain. So they're using, and if you want to search this more, you can look up LLLT, which is low level light therapy or low level laser therapy, or photobiomodulation. And one of the top researchers on photobiomodulation is he's out of Harvard. what's his name? You know the guy Hamblin,
Hamlin,
Doctor.
Richard Hamlin, I think. Yeah.
It might be Mike I think it's Mike Hamlin.
Is it Mike? Okay.
Yeah, but if
Yeah.
you look at if you Google LLLT Hamblin Harvard, he's got some very kind of concise, easy to read articles, and he has this one like an image of a human, and it goes through. It talks about all the different things that they're using red light for.
Wow.
Such as muscle recover, neurodegeneration. If you have a sluggish liver, you can put it on your liver, and it'll improve your liver. Because remember, red light penetrates up to 30 centimeters into your body, and red light can turn that ATPase. So those photons from the red light can literally go in your cells, in your mitochondria, and make ATP. They can make energy. So and the way this works is, your red blood cells. What's really interesting is if you blow up a red blood cell, it's kind of shaped like a donut, but it's kind of shaped like a satellite or like a dish. Why are dishes shaped like that? So they can capture the signal. So your red blood cells are shaped in a certain way so they can capture photons of light. They capture that light, and then they take it to your cells, and your mitochondria can use that to make energy. So that's another thing, using red light also improves your mitochondrial function. So it has all sorts of benefits, but if you really want to dig into it, just kind of Google the terms I told you, and you'll find a whole lot of information on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. We've reached out to Dr. Hamlin to be on the show to talk about this kind of stuff.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely be checking that one out.
Yeah, and this is interesting, Nathan. Let me bring up this picture on our Instagram. Now, are you familiar with Brian Hoyer, the building biologist kind of guy? So we had him come out to our house a while back, and he was doing.
That's great.
Yeah, it was really cool, man. His services are great. So he spent about 4 hours at our house testing EMF and dirty electricity and all this kind of stuff in our home, and he was checking out the flicker rate of our red lights. So these LED red lights that I'm sharing on the YouTube version of this show, I purchased before I realized that LEDs produce or have a flicker rate. And so when he went to go check the flicker rate of these lights, I fully expected him to say, "Oh, these are super high." But he has like $30,000 worth of equipment, all kinds of meters and everything. But he tested these particular bulbs, and according to his equipment, he didn't detect any flicker rate with these things. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, cool. Well, how much light do they put out? I mean, can you read a book to him?
You can. Yeah, you can. They're pretty light. It says here 3 watts, 120 volts, non-dimmable. I don't know exactly how much light they put out in terms of like joules or whatever, but they're pretty bright. And then Brian, I think, chimed in here, and he said he bought a ton of them after checking ours. So I don't know.
Cool.
I mean, it's just interesting.
That's good to know. I will, I'll get some of those and check them out.
Yeah, because I was fully expecting him to say, "Oh, those are horrible," and the Sunlighten brand. So I'll put those in the show notes as well too. But interesting, right?
Yeah, that is really good to know.
Yeah, because he was saying the flicker rate has is the flicker rate the same thing as like how you see a TV. Like if a TV's on during like a sitcom, so someone in the sitcom or in the movie is watching TV, and you see that flicker from the old style TVs, is that the same thing as the flicker rate in lighting, do you think?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It could be the refresh rate.
Okay. Yeah, because he was saying
which I think is different than flicker.
Yeah, it's weird because you would see these lines going up the TV, from those old, TVs that we used to watch, and it was really kind of like, and then you would always ask yourself, like, how come I don't see those lines when I watch TV myself, but I see them if it's on some video or something? It's really weird.
Yeah, that's just well. It's funny, when I was a kid, I remember, people would always say, don't sit too close to the TV. There's radiation. But today, people sit very close to the TV.
I know.
Like you were talking about, you pass by garages and kids are like right in front of like a huge, flat screen playing their video games.
Oh, it's crazy. TV's bigger than they are. Okay, so let's go through and see a couple of questions. What blue outlaw Leezy wants to know, what blue light filter glasses are you using? So yeah, do you want to just elaborate on those?
These I have on now are raw optics.
Mm-hmm.
So these I wear during the day because they block up to 450 nanometers or yellow. And then once the sun sets, I have some prescription raw optics. So if I need to see distance, I'll wear those. If not, then I'll just wear my blue blocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
And I have some different ones too. So sometimes I can't find a pair of glasses. So sometimes I'll just kind of pick up a random pair.
Yeah.
Kind of like you, Justin. You just have like pairs around the house just to play it safe, right?
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, raw optics is really good. Blue blocks is really good. These ones I have on are True Dark. So if you want to purchase those through our store, or if you want to support Nathan, both of us are connected with those same companies. So if you guys want to purchase any of those glasses, feel free to either go through Nathan or myself if you want to support the work that we do. Let's see. What about red light therapy? We kind of covered that. Where do I find when, okay, this is an interesting question. Where do I find when red light shows up at my latitude? I live near Chicago, Illinois.
So anytime the sun's out, red light's out. Red light makes up 42% of the sun, and that doesn't change. So throughout the year, the amount of blue light, the amount of UV light, that kind of fluctuates, but the amount of red light in the sun is pretty constant.
Okay.
So if you're outside and the sun's out, even kind of like pre-sunset, that red light's kind of coming over the horizon,
mm-hmm.
and you're getting a benefit from that red light anytime you're out in the sun.
Have you messed around with that app D-Minder or D-Miner? I haven't messed around with it. Is that pretty
it's
good?
An awesome app.
Yeah?
It's awesome. It's really, really good. So what you can do is with D-Minder, it picks up your location, your altitude, and you put in your skin type. So if you have, if you're Irish and you have very light skin, you're like a Fitzpatrick 1. If you're darker, you're like a 5. So it's kind of depending on your skin type, how much skin you have exposed. So when you turn on the app, you say, okay, I have 50% of my skin exposed, and there are, thin clouds, or it's 50% clouds or 30% clouds. So you put in the percentage of clouds and you start it, and it gives you an approximation of how much vitamin D you're making.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's really cool. Like for me, I get kind of almost competitive with myself. Like, okay, I need to make X IU of vitamin D each day during the summer.
I see. So how much,
if you live where I live, what's that?
I was going to ask you, how much vitamin D are you making this time of year in the winter where you are in New York? Zero. Really?
Yeah, there's UVA this time of year. There's no UVB, but that's not entirely true. So it's hard to quantify how much you're actually making. But did you ever listen to Jack Cruz's 2018 Vermont talk?
Oh, I've heard it probably 7 or 8 times or more. Yeah, it's a good one.
Okay,
yeah.
So I won't go too deep into it, but in that talk, he talks about how your body can make different frequencies of light using deuterium. So UVA light goes in, it hits your skin, it makes a deuterium laser, which can make all frequencies of UV light, all the way down to UVC, which doesn't even get through our atmosphere. So you can make UVB light in your cells, which you can then use to make vitamin D in the dead of winter, as long as you get outside and expose your skin to the sun. But the problem is, Justin, is very few people do that. Even like on a kind of a nice day here, I get very little sun in the winter where I live. It's horrible. I totally want to move as soon as I can. But it's been cloudy the past 5 days. We had 1 day of sun, and before that, it was 10 days before, when we had sun the last time.
Wow.
So I'm making very little vitamin D, but I do get out especially when it's sunny. I'll get out, I'll go for a walk in a t-shirt. So I'm making a little bit. I don't know how much, but most people living in the northern hemisphere during the wintertime make very little vitamin D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned Kaniki. Are you a fan of those? I know there's a cool tan that allows sunlight frequencies to get through. Are you a fan of those kinds of clothes? Do you think they actually work?
Yeah, I have a pair of Kaniki. I don't wear them too much. I like them. So sometimes I'll go for a hike, like this time of year when it's really cold out and there's snow out, and I'll wear my Kaniki under my pants because they're almost like a pair of boxer shorts.
Okay.
So that they're not a style I would typically wear because they're very form fitting and they're kind of smaller. I'm more of like a board shorts kind of dude.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll wear like I said, I'll wear them if I'm going to go for a hike because I can go swimming in them and then put my pants back on and not have to have a towel or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to go down to Mexico or something, I would bring those for sure. I do have the ability to tan in the nude where I live. I have some places where I have privacy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can go nude, that's the way to go. But a lot of people don't have that option. So I haven't tested them out to see. I mean, it's kind of hard to quantify, but I guess one thing you could do is if you had a spectrometer, you could, hold them up to the sun and do the spectrometer through them.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm just looking at Cool Town. They have some better styles than Kaniki because I think Kaniki is more like a European company, right? And they're kind of
Yeah, it's definitely more of a European look. But
yeah,
the bikinis and the bathing suits for women are very nice.
yeah,
They're pretty cool. So like I was saying before, breast cancer is a huge deal for women. And if you want to prevent breast cancer, get sun on your breast. Very simple way to do that without flashing everyone is to wear a Kaniki.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm 100% fan of Kaniki. Same for guys. Like I was saying, it's very hard for a guy to expose, especially in this day and age with all these sexual harassment suits going on.
Right,
But
right.
You've got to come up with unique ways where you can kind of get sun exposure where the sun doesn't normally shine. That's on your nether regions.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, whatever you have to do to get sun down there, do it.
Yeah. I used to laugh at all the people at our local beaches here that would be, nude, suntan bathing. But now I think they knew what was up, Oh, it's crazy. Jordan wants to know, is there a filter that works on our computers? We just kind of talked about Iris. That's available if you guys want to check that out. That's actually available in our store as well. And I know you are connected up with them as well, Nathan, if people want to buy through you. Is there a competitor to Raw Optics for prescription glasses? That's a good question from Phyllis. Do you know about that?
Yeah, so there's Blue Tech lenses. Blue Blocks gives you the ability to enter a prescription as well.
Okay. Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Three
Okay.
of them, yeah.
Blue Techs and Blue Blocks. They make medical grade red light. Okay, with no filters. Medical grade red light LEDs with no flicker. This is what Larry says. Okay.
Who makes them?
Larry says in the chat room, he doesn't say. He just says they make medical grade red light LEDs with no flicker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What color glasses should you wear in office buildings, and do these lights cause your eyes to go bad? From Reginald. We kind of touched on that a little bit too, right?
Yeah. So yellow lenses, and absolute yes. Office lights are horrible because most of them are fluorescent or they're LED now.
Yeah, really bad, right? And those fluorescent lights have a ton of flicker rate as far as I understand as well.
Yep.
Darren wants to know, curious, how do you two look at the sun? I've heard Dr. Cruz say he looks at a 15-degree angle. I sometimes find myself looking right at it.
Yeah, so I'll look directly at the sun for sunrise and sunset, and then as it gets higher, then yeah, I'll kind of like look off to one side of the sun. There are people that do sun gazing and they'll stare directly at the sun. So I'm not advocating that because you can damage your eyes if you look directly at the sun at the wrong time of the day, especially like closer to noon. But if you want to research it, there are people that do sun gazing, and there's a thing, you start off, you do like 10 seconds and then 20 seconds, you increase by 10 seconds each day, and people work up to like 3 minutes of staring at the sun later in the day.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wouldn't recommend that myself, but man, that's that I don't know. I don't know what that would do, but I like to look at it like you said, in the sunrise and the sunset, and then indirectly, during the day. I'll look 30 degrees away from the sun midday, even in the summer, you know, and just not wear any sunglasses, because that's the big key, right? Is just to avoid wearing sunglasses at all costs.
Yeah, 100%. Unless you need them, you know, if you're driving, the sun's in your face and you need them for safety reasons, 100% wear them then. But otherwise, or if your vision is just freaking horrible, then, you know, wear glasses when you're driving. One little thing you can do is you can kind of have them down like this, so you're getting the sunlight in your eyes, but then, you know, if you need to see, you can do this.
Oh, smart. Okay.
But
Now,
yeah, by and large, get rid of your sunglasses. If you spend a lot of money, if they're like, you know, Versace or, you know, like some really nice brand, just wear them like this.
yeah.
Then you can still show off like, hey, I've got fancy sunglasses, but you're still getting the benefits from the sun.
Right. Let's see here. A cool question from Karen. She wants to know, what's the best type of light to use at our desk, at home or at work, along with a PC? That's a good question.
Yeah, really good question. So incandescent or halogen. So I've got a halogen lamp over to my side. So any kind of light bulb that puts off heat is good. Now I also have a black light behind my computer here,
Okay.
which is UVA light. Now it doesn't put out a ton, but it does kind of help to add to the spectrum of light, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to fill back in the spectrum that you're missing. So incandescent, Justin showed that the spectrum of an incandescent light bulb is very little blue, but a whole lot of red.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, incandescent is the simplest way to go. They have some bulbs that are kind of even more full spectrum. They're called, I think they're called, you know what, it escapes me. But if you go to like Amazon or like a website that sells light bulbs and you put in full spectrum bulb, they do have other bulbs that have an even kind of more full spectrum than an incandescent. But I heard this thing the other day, and it may have been Brian Hoyer that was posting it. It was in one of the Facebook groups, talking about how for incandescent bulbs, the higher wattage you go, actually the better they are, because the higher wattage you go, the less flicker effect. Because I didn't realize it, but I guess incandescent bulbs have somewhat of a flicker effect as well. It's not as bad as LEDs or fluorescent, but it's still there. So you want to go higher wattage for incandescent to really kind of optimize the benefits.
Yeah, he was sharing the same thing with us, and he has this bulb. Let me see if I can try to find it, because we're connected up with him in our store, and he has a Power Perfect box for dirty electricity. So let me see if I can find it in his store. He was sharing something really cool. This is more for dirty electricity in your walls in your home, but let me go over to Shielded Healing and see if he's got something. I know he's got like it's like a chicken lamp that he uses, but it's completely shielded, and he was testing the flicker rate from my monitor, and if you put the lamp onto me, the flicker rate completely got mitigated, which is really fascinating.
So yeah, you shine the light right on the monitor, is that it?
Yeah, he was shining the light like in between. This is what it looks like here. Zero EMF desk therapy light. So he had this thing with him, and he was testing the flicker rate, and he stood where I would stand, because at my house I have a standing desk, and I'm standing there, and he stood right where I was, and he was with his meter. He was showing like his meter was spiking where I was standing. And then he had Kate my wife hold this this zero EMF desk light next to the monitor, pointed at me, and then he measured me again, and it was all completely gone, which is crazy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that. Man, I'm learning a bunch of stuff from you today, Justin. I love it. So what's it? That's on your website?
Well, yeah, we sell. It's available in our store. If you click over from our store, it's but in our store, it's like, this is the product that we promote through him. It's the Power Perfect box for dirty electricity. And then once you click over, you can just go search for this thing. But I haven't tried it yet, but I was there, and I think I even have video, because I did a ton of videos with him when he was here that we're going to put on YouTube. And I think this one was on video as well, when he showed the meter spiking, and then which is pretty significant. Like, I was really impressed with this thing, you know.
That's huge, because, you know, in the beginning when we were talking about the harms of a blue light. One thing I didn't mention is what's it called? It's computer vision syndrome,
Oh,
or
okay.
digital eye strain, which is another huge thing. It's overtaken carpal tunnel as the number one computer related complaint. So it affects 80% of people. So for some people, it's just you feel tired, it hurts your eyes, you get dry eyes, it causes your eyes to water. Some people get headaches, some people get migraines,
Mm-hmm.
um, some people get neck and shoulder pain. So that's another thing that blue light does. This sounds like it would be a really good thing to help mitigate it.
Yeah, it's really, really fascinating. But I mean, there's so many cool things that you can do. I'm curious about that black light. Like, where did you get that, and what brand is it? Do you know?
It's just I just got it off Amazon. I've got a couple of them. So this is kind of like a mini one, and then I have this is a
Oh,
fluorescent bulb. So this does have some of a flicker effect. I live on the other coast, so I probably can't have Brian over, but I'd love to find a guy like Brian to test the flicker of this. But I have this one, and then kind of like a full size
uh-huh.
one. But I saw a YouTube video, and the guy had a spectrometer, and the fluorescent black lights put off the most UVA light. The
Interesting.
incandescent ones put off the least amount.
Of
So that's
UVA.
why for UVA. So
UVA.
That's one reason I have compact fluorescent UVA as opposed to incandescent. So, and just a quick refresher, I brought this up last time, but UVA light, the reason it's so important, it goes in your eye, it makes melatonin, dopamine, serotonin, and melanin. So, melatonin for your sleep, serotonin for your happiness, dopamine for your drive, motivation, and just feeling good in general. And one of another huge kind of another thing that blue light is causing is addiction because it's destroying your dopamine. And if you look at all these people hooked on all these on these opiates and just drugs in general, it's like 70,000 people a year are dying from drug overdoses. So addiction is a huge thing. It's not just drugs. It's porn, or there's a lot of people they become pedophiles from too much porn, gambling, but there's all these addictions. Blue light is also driving that as well.
Mm. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Oh, by the way, Brian Hoyer does do, cross country. Like he'll go out, and if you're in an area where there's a lot of people, he'll travel around the country and see like 10 or 15 different people in the course of like a 2-week period. So I know
Oh, cool.
he goes out. So if you follow him, you might want to see if he's coming to your area because I think he travels everywhere doing this kind of stuff.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah. All right, let's take a couple more questions, and then we're going to call it quits because I know Nathan has some other things he has to do right after this. Bob Dylan, I love his name in the chat room. It's hilarious. How about the plant light bulbs? Do you have any ideas or thoughts about those?
Well, there's a bunch of different plant light bulbs. Like one of the lights I have, it's a UFO light. So this is actually sold for plants. This is 660 nanometer red light.
Oh.
And in fact, there was a while there was like a shortage of these because it turns out these lights make very potent marijuana. So all these guys are, people in Colorado that are, growing pot were buying all these lights because it makes higher THC in the marijuana or something like that.
Oh, wow.
But there are different. So plants are optimized to different light than humans are. Plants do very well with blue light. So I don't know 100%, but a plant will thrive under like an LED or fluorescent much better than we will. So it just depends on the plant light. Some might be better, but some, might not offer any benefit. It's kind of hard to say because there's so many different kinds of lights for plants.
Yeah, interesting. Reginald he's read that he says that using red light therapy in the morning on your junk will help your prostate. Is this true?
100%. Yeah, it'll also increase your testosterone production too.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
one thing this might be TMI for some people, so cover your ears. But in the summer, the sun rises right into my apartment, and I open my door and I'm buck naked in the morning for the sunrise. I'm doing my meditation. But yeah, that increases your testosterone for sure, and that's also going to help with prostate. But for prostate, in addition to red light, you do want to be getting some UV light too, so you can increase your local melatonin there. But if you can't get outside and do it, then red light will offer a benefit too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, we'll take a couple more. Let's see. What about? Okay, so that's directly. Oscar wants to know: do you have any idea if looking directly into infrared light is a good way to increase energy? I have an infrared LED lamp, and I normally use it to irradiate my body, and sometimes I look directly at it. I guess it would depend on what kind of light that is, right?
Yeah, it just depends on how bright it is, but in some cases you could be doing some harm to your eyes in the long term. So I'd be careful with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would too. In Europe, let's see here. In Europe, where I live, incandescent bulbs are no longer available. Whoa, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's in the U.S. I mean, they've phased them out. You can still buy them at some stores in the
Mm-hmm.
U.S., but I used to buy most of my light bulbs at like a Lowe's or Home Depot.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really find them there anymore. I hate to admit this because I don't like going to the store, but Walmart does sell incandescent bulbs still.
Oh, really?
They also have they look like an incandescent bulb, but they're a halogen bulb.
Okay.
There are some websites online, so you could probably it might be expensive to get them shipped to Europe, but you can go on like eBay and there are other websites that do sell them. But in the where I live, a lot of this stuff is like some of this green technology is a huge scam. Like they have these grants that they're paying to the utility companies here to go in and to replace light fixtures with LED fixtures. So where I live, for example, I came home one day and there was a sign saying we're going to replace all of your fixtures. It's going to be this great energy savings, and I'm just like, absolutely not. So I'm probably the only apartment where I live that didn't replace them.
Nice.
But so the utility company, I was just like, why the hell would they do this? This is a big expense, and plus you're using less energy. But it turns out they're getting $250 for every. I don't know if it's for every home or if it's for each fixture that they replace with LEDs.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting $250 from the state of New York. So if anybody here is watching and lives in New York, it's one of the reasons New York has the highest taxes because they have some bullshit programs like this, which it's benefiting the utility company. They're trying to sell it like it's benefiting you,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to make your health even worse over time. And then they're going to be stuck with even larger medical bills when people are getting sick sooner. So sorry for the rant, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that it's marketed to you as helping you out when it's really hurting you. And, the implications are far reaching. And I don't think we have any idea, how much harm this is going to do in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Dude, Nathan, thanks so much for being on the show today and sharing your wisdom and insights. So tell people a little bit about what you have going on your site, because I mentioned at the beginning that you work with people, and for those of you that are considering working with someone, Nathan is an awesome guy because of, like I was saying before, how well-rounded he is. A lot of our guests, as you guys probably know, are hyper-focused in one area, and that's great. But when you're trying to build an entire life and a foundation of turning your health around and building healthy practices, this is sort of what Nathan focuses on. So tell people about what you do for them, Nathan, and if they want to get in contact with you.
Yeah, sure. Awesome. So I work with my clients over the course of 90 days. And the main thing I do is I provide them accountability, coaching, and guided support through 4 key elements that make up my optimal health protocol. So the first element is self-image design. And self-image design is, let's go back to it. So your self-image is your mental blueprint of how you see yourself. And if you have some bad programming, so if you were told when you were a little kid that you're stupid or you're fat, that became a program in your mind, and it guides your habits, your decisions, your actions.
Mm-hmm.
So in self-image design, we look to identify your self-limiting beliefs and remove them and create new beliefs that are aligned with the person that you want to be. So being a healthy person, for example, is just who you are. You're not trying to be a healthy person. Those are the programs in your mind now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then element number 2 is energy optimization, and is really helping you to have very healthy mitochondria. Because like we were talking about earlier, without energy, things in your body break down, you get symptoms, you don't feel well. So in energy optimization, we optimize your mitochondrial health, help your body increase your energy. We also look at things in your environment robbing you of energy and remove them. Once you increase your energy, your body has the ability to heal itself and reverse pretty much anything that you're dealing with. So element number 3 is my brain gut protocol. So optimizing your gut health, because when you have a leaky gut, for example, that creates inflammation in your brain, because your brain and gut are intimately connected. So giving you a healthy gut so you can have a healthier brain, optimizing your brain gut connection. So for example, when you eat food, your brain tells your gut to release enzymes or hydrochloric acid or bile to break down your food. And when you don't have a good connection, you're not getting all the nutrients from your food. You're not breaking it down as much, and that's optimized. That's impacting your energy production as well. So, and then the 4th element is lifestyle integration, and it's just teaching you to create a lifestyle that is going to, in the short term, reverse your different symptoms that you're dealing with, and in the long term, continue to build that foundation of health. So it's teaching you a whole new way to live, so you're continually building health and improving yourself as you go. So giving you accountability, making sure you're not taking on too many things at once, and making sure you're doing things in the right order to really help you optimize your results.
Dude, that's awesome. So people can sign up. Do you have like a waiting list or a period where you open the doors and work with new people, or how does that work if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, people can go to my website, and there's a link to my calendar. You can schedule a time for us to talk, and during that talk, we'll see if we're a good fit to work together. Okay. So not everyone is a fit for my program, and I can't help everyone. But so that's the purpose of that call, is just kind of to assess, what have you done so far? What are you dealing with? And what are you willing to do? Mm-hmm. And, if it makes sense, I share my program, how it works, and then we take it from there.
Awesome. Dude, Nathan, we were going to do like an hour, but we're at an hour and 42 minutes. And I just feel like with this whole light thing, there's so much to talk about with regards to mitigation strategies, as well as bringing practices to bring the good light in. So let's do it again. If you're interested and you want to do it, I think it'd be fun to do it again.
Yeah, I'd love to. I love your show, Justin. And I learned a bunch of cool things today too. I took some notes down here, and I have some new light bulbs to check out. So I'd love to come back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll do it again, and I'll send you a link to make another booking. And so make sure to go check out Nathan's website, journeytooptimalhealth.com. And if you guys are listening on the iTunes version, just go to extremehealthradio.com/643, and I'll put a bunch of the show notes of the products and different light bulbs and Nathan's website, all that good stuff at extremehealthradio.com/643. Nathan, I'll let you go, but man, thank you again for your time, and let's definitely do this again. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hey, Justin, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on, and I look forward to doing it again.
Awesome, man. All right. I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Happy holidays. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye. All right, there you go, Mr. Nathan Walz. Let me take off this. Actually, I'll leave this in for just a second. Curious to know what you guys thought about him and his information. Interesting with regards to light, right? Very, very important. I think that it's one of the things that has changed my life completely, more so than any kind of food or dietary change. For those that know, I did 100% raw food vegan lifestyle for 7 years, from 2003 when I first got involved in all this crazy natural health stuff, from 2003 to 2010. And I was doing the whole 100% raw food vegan thing, live food and all that stuff. And this has been the biggest improvement in my life since then. And I feel like it's a big part of my journey, because when you find something that works, you just want to tell people more about it, especially like we're talking during the show that, whoops, this almost came off. Especially during the show, that a lot of people in the natural health world don't understand this whole piece of light, and in my opinion, I just don't understand how you wouldn't know about any of this, because I'm an avid listener of podcasts. I'm constantly reading information, reading articles, looking up studies, sharing stuff, trying stuff on my own, listening to lectures, watching YouTube videos. I'm constantly trying, and that's all aside from the show that we do with all these people, right? So I'm constantly learning stuff. And I think the problem is a lot of people that come onto our show are very focused on one thing. Like they might be focused on gut health, or they might be focused on brain health, or they might be focused on dentistry, or they might be focused on, a certain aspect of cleansing or detoxification. And there's an issue with that, because if you're not rounding yourself out, if you're not learning new information all the time from the latest stuff that's going on, then I think you're really doing a disservice, because anybody who's a part of, a doctor or a lawyer, or someone that's on our show, like we're gonna have a lawyer on next week talking about vaccines. Anyone who's in those fields can listen to podcasts, and that's when I'm doing dishes or when I'm working out, I'm using that time to learn information that other people are talking about. So I'm learning new stuff all the time. I was just learning something before the show. I was telling Kate all about oxalic acid and its role in cancer. And I posted a picture of a book that is on Amazon that you can check out, of this doctor, a 90-year-old doctor, doing some research on oxalic acid and talking about there's 5 basic food substances that block oxalic acid. And oxalic acid is what helps transfer oxygen to the cell. And if you have enough of that in your body, it'll kill cancer cells, and it's nature's chemotherapy. But I learned this because I listened to podcasts and I listened to different things. And I think that it's really challenging. Like I said, a lot of people that come on our show, they're very hyper-focused. And I think, for me, it's a way to aggregate all of their knowledge. And, we've done 643 episodes. So it's a way for me to bring all of this knowledge into sort of one source. And I've been able to do that. And so, and that's why I like Nathan. He's a really cool guy. He's got a lot of cool things to say, and he approaches health from many different angles. And so I'm just a big fan of what he's doing over there at Journey to Optimal Health, and I like supporting him and his work. And so let me share with you guys, speaking of optimal sleep, which is kind of what we're talking about a little bit, let me bring up to you in our store this Magnetico Mattress Pad. This thing is just amazing, and it's something that we've been using for, probably a little over a year now, I'd say, and we just love it. And what it does is it produces a magnetic field above your bed, and you're basically sleeping in a magnetic field environment. And if you guys know and realize that the magnetic field of the Earth has been slowly diminishing over time, and this Magnetico mattress sleep pad is a really great way to mitigate that. And if you look at our store, you see light water magnetism. Magnetism affects those electrons that Nathan was talking about, the spin of the electrons, and magnetism affects this kind of stuff. That's why specifically Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And this is why bringing more magnetism to your life is critical for your health, as well as decreasing the amount of blue light and bringing in full spectrum frequency from the sun. Because the last I was looking, I think there's over 1,500 different wavelengths of photons coming from the sun, of light coming from the sun, but then 10 to the 46 power different frequencies of the sun. So reconnecting with nature is really important, and sleeping on a Magnetico mattress pad for me has been incredible. It helps to detoxify heavy metals. It helps to bring more magnetism and create ATP in the body, helps you to get a deep restorative sleep. And the best thing is, if you're worried about this 5G technology coming, I think it's really important to get one of these things and really invest in a pad that you can sleep on, because basically you go to sleep anyway. So why not use that 8 hours that you're sleeping, or 9 hours, to fully regenerate and heal? We had Jason Prawl on the show a while back, and let me play a little bit of what he had to say about this.
I just heard those devices that you had during the break, by the way, and I actually want to add to that because that's really cool stuff. I actually have the Magnetico sleep pad myself. I've got the 20 Gauss. It actually is really important. And what's happening is with the Earth, according to research and some pretty good science, that the poles are actually wandering. Instead of being sort of perfectly aligned and opposite of each other, there's multiple poles on the north and south, and they're actually wandering around. And basically what that does is it decreases magnetism around the Earth, but it does so in an uneven way, in an undistributed way. So it's not exactly uniform around the planet. What's happening is we are getting extra solar energies coming to the Earth. So we're actually seeing like UVC is now increasing on the planet. Because of our magnetic field, our magnetic shield is not as protective. So it's really interesting stuff what's happening as we're moving into new parts of the galaxy, and we're getting new energies and all this stuff is changing. So I actually have a Magnetico sleep pad.
Yeah, it's one of the best things that we have in our home, and I just love it. We actually don't even have the Super Sleep system, which is their 10 Gauss. We have the actually that's the 20 Gauss. We only have the 10 Gauss, and our kids sleep on it, and it's just one of the best health tools that you could get. And many of you guys were asking in the chat room earlier about the Iris software. Let me bring that up too. If you guys want to check it out, it's available in our store. We've got a lot of really cool things in our store, and we were talking about this Iris blue blocking software, and I'm telling you guys, it's $15, and it's the best $15 you'll ever spend. I am telling you, and I cannot recommend this software highly enough. Please go out and get this software, please, 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 because if you want to block blue light, and if you 100% block a blue light, I started out with getting the Flux, using the Flux, and that didn't block the blue light. It used up a lot of stored memory too, so it kind of slowed my computer down a little bit. And it didn't do anything to the flicker rate. And so the guy behind Iris is really a computer programmer kind of geek guy, but he also understands light. And so he's a really interesting guy, and I use it. You can set it. You just have to get the settings right, but there's a zillion settings on there, and it tracks your location. So it'll actually just, as soon as the sun sets, no matter what time of year, it'll just completely turn your screen all the way to 0 Kelvin. So it'll eliminate 100% of blue light. So if you want to work on your computer in the evening, you're not going to damage your eyes. You're not going to cause all of the things that we talked about during today's show. Lower DHA levels, lowers dopamine levels, screws up the central retinal pathway in your eyes, damages your retina, and your whole entire circadian rhythm, as well as your nervous system and your brain. I mean, and it dehydrates you at the cellular level too in your mitochondria. So it destroys your sleep, blue light, and so this is why I'm such a big fan. I can't tell you enough. I wish I could use it on this computer here that I do the shows on, but I can't because of the output. The YouTube video version would just look horrible. It would look all orange and wouldn't look that good. So, but go get Iris blue blocking software. If you click on the link in the store, if you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description. So make sure to check that out. Let me pop over to the chat room and see if you guys have any questions before I take off today. Bob Dylan wants to know, what is the oxalic acid book? If you follow us, do you have Instagram? If you follow us on Instagram, I took a picture of it on Instagram stories today, so I don't have it. In fact, you know what? Maybe I'll be able to pull it up here really quick. The oxalic acid book, because this guy is about 90 years old who wrote this, so he knows what he's talking about. So let me see. So this is the one I did today. Okay, so let me bring this up on the show. Maybe this will show up, maybe not. Let's see. No, I don't think it will. Okay, so yeah, it's called, the name of the oxalate book is called The Heart Dietary Procedure Plan, Cancer, the Cure is in the Food, Oxalic Acid, God's Natural Chemotherapy. And it's by Colonel Joe, Joe Hart, H-A-R-T, and it's available on Amazon. So you guys can check that out if you guys want. But, there's a lot of cool stuff that's, people are talking about that you're not going to get in the mainstream media. You're not going to hear anything about this stuff. Phyllis wants to know, she says, yes, bring Nathan back. I watch the sunrise and sunset. This light part is as important to me as my vegan diet and to meditate. Yeah, Phyllis, that's it's critical. You know, I think there's a lot of people too that are doing the same thing that I'm talking about with food gurus who are talking about food and all they talk about is their supplements and all this kind of stuff. People do this about light as well. So when you stumble across something that you think is the cat's meow, you tend to focus 100% of your energy bringing that out into the light. And I think a lot of the light gurus out there fail to look at the emotional, spiritual side of health and personal development and personal growth, because those things are huge. Because if you don't have the personal growth part, if you don't have the spiritual growth part and the personal development part, you're not going to have the motivating factor to make a decision to change your light environment, right? So it's a trickle down. You have to start at the top. And so if you listen to our shows that we did on recall healing and family constellation therapy, those are some pretty interesting shows that we've done with regards to spirituality and emotions and things like that. So I think that has to play a role in your overall health as well, being connected to others. So this light piece, in my opinion, is way above food, but it's also way below personal development, spiritual growth, connectedness to others, feeling good, being happy, connected to life, living your mission. You know, light to me is well below any of that stuff. But start at the top. Start with your connection to other people. Start with, you know, how you feel in your family and your connectedness to mom and dad. Start with those things, but then also work on the light piece as well. And then you can also work on the food piece because they're all kind of easy to work on. And so it's really, really easy to work on all these types of things. Eric says here, Justin, you're an amazing human being. I would like to get into this health realm when I get better someday, just to help spread the word that there are natural ways to heal. Eric, that's so true, man. That's true. There are natural ways to heal. That's so, so true. And this is the problem with mainstream media, is that they tell you there's not. And they tell you the only way to heal is through pharmaceutical drugs, chemicals, toxins, chemotherapy, and all of that stuff. And so it's really, really challenging when you listen to them because they're so disempowering. We had someone in our academy just the other day asking about, we're talking about atrial fibrillation. And for those that are unaware, just about every Sunday inside the Extreme Health Academy, we take your health questions. And this person was asking about atrial fibrillation and wondering if the Apple Watch was going to help them, let them know if their heart was beating irregularly or something like that. And Dr. Bergman was answering the question. I couldn't agree with him more. And he was saying, like, why would you have an outside tool to tell you that something's wrong with your body? Right? And that's what we're doing is we're looking to drugs, or we're looking to doctors or testing to find something wrong. And it's like when you lose weight, you know, human beings don't like to lose things, right? So when you lose something, what do you naturally want to do when you lose something? You want to find it, right? So if you lose weight, your body subconsciously is going to seek after replacing what got lost with more weight, right? So in the same way, we're looking for doctors and authority figures and these types of people to tell us what to think about our health, or in this case, a Fitbit watch. And in that answer, I was sharing some ideas about, you know, just the wireless technology and the blue lit screen and the fact that that thing's emitting wireless frequencies of radiation. It's a bidirectional wireless device, which is causing all kinds of issues. And if you look at where a watch is on your body too, a watch is going to have metal in it, which is going to be an attractor of 5G technology. So that by itself is going to be bad. That's why you don't want to have metal on your body anywhere, or in your body for that matter. But it's also a bidirectional a device emitting and receiving electromagnetic field frequencies, right? And so the issue with that is that watches always are on the wrist, right? So the problem is that where do people try to commit suicide? They try to commit suicide by slitting their wrist, these ulnar arteries right on the wrist there. The reason why is because you're going to bleed right out. And this wrist on everyone is a way to you can actually input light into the body through your wrist. That can actually be a third eye. And so when you have an Apple Watch or any kind of metal watch that's right on your wrist like that, it's bad news, right? So, you know, I think that it's really important for us to avoid looking to other people and to devices and things like the Aura Ring. I've had some people ask me if what I think about the Oura Ring or these devices to help you track and manage things. But I think when we do that kind of stuff, I think it's another step to disconnect us from ourselves. And I'm not sold on the Oura Ring yet because it, I think, has metal in it, and I'm not going to put something metal on my body. But even if it didn't have metal, it's a subconscious way of disconnecting us from ourselves to know whether or not we need to get sunlight, or we've been outside enough during the day, or our heart rate or sleep is good. I think we need to ditch all that stuff and get back into the body, like Elliot Hull says. Get back into your body. And I think that's so important, and building that reconnection so that you can listen to your body and listen to your intuition and stop having a machine or a doctor or a test tell you that. So it's just one of those things where I really feel like there's this bizarre thing in our culture, especially in a naturopathic world, to look to other people to tell you what's right or wrong about your own health, and only you can do that. Eric says, night shift on Android is amazing for blue light. You can make your screen as yellow, orange, or as red as you want. Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't know anything about Android because I have a phone, but there's no phone on it. It's just an iPhone, but I use it for filming videos and doing Instagram for the radio show. That's cool. I didn't know that. Victorious Joy, try a blue light app for your phone. Yeah, I think Iris works on the phone too. I'm pretty sure it does. Oh, Beck. So I got a Ruby Lux near infrared bulb grade A, also 10 inches reflector and bulb guard. Is that a good thing? Also Ruby Lux goggles. Cool. Yeah, I'd have to look more at Ruby Lux. There's a lot of cool companies, Rebecca, that are putting out great products these days, and it's hard to keep up with all of them. So I've heard good things about Ruby Lux, but I haven't done the research on that particular product myself. But the what's kind of irrelevant about this kind of stuff is that all of this stuff, when you put intention into improving your health, even if you buy a product that's not that good, it's still going to be good for your subconscious mind because you're telling yourself you're worth it, right? It's like when I bought the infrared or the LED red lights, right? By doing that, I learned later that they have lots of flicker, but then I realized after Brian Hoyer did testing that it doesn't have a lot of flicker. So, but the idea of buying a blender or going outside in nature and meditating or connecting to the sun in some way, all of these things are telling your subconscious mind you're worth it. So whether or not you do exactly the right thing that someone says you have to do, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is that you're reconnecting with the earth and you're doing your part. There's an age-old sort of saying that in ancient Chinese medicine that talks about how an herb, a particular mushroom, and its benefit for someone who seeks it out. And they would always say that it has more of an effect on someone who actually seeks it out than it does for someone who is just given to them. And when you seek something out and you have to hunt your food, or you have to hunt for the wild mushrooms, or you have to actually go procure this stuff for yourself, there's a huge benefit to that. And I think it's something that we should all consider. Wellness consultant says the UVA thing is fascinating. How much time do you expose yourself to that black light each day? Are you not worried or concerned about UVA and skin cancer? Skin cancers, a lot of studies now showing that skin cancers are primarily blue light toxicity. And what happens is that people will overdose their skin with blue light, which is why I'm all covered up right now. They'll overdose their skin with blue light, and it's causing a mutation of the cells, and it's causing the mitochondria to not produce enough ATP, and it's causing all kinds of issues with your skin. And the photoreceptors, in your skin is damaging those. And then someone like this that has spent all week damaging their skin under fluorescent lights at work will go out on a weekend and just burn, right? And so that is the deadly combination. So if you're, you got to protect your skin when you're indoors, and when you're outside, slowly build an adaptation model. So something we didn't talk about on today's show was, how do I keep myself from burning? And there's lots of different ways to do that. If you're in the summertime, you want to go out in the sun, but you realize you burn. So some substances you can take to keep your skin from burning are going to be chlorophyll from green juices or wheatgrass juice, green powders. We have some in our store, but you can just make a green juice, chlorophyll, or eat a salad or make a green smoothie. These things have all kinds of phytonutrients and antioxidants, and specifically chlorophyll, which is going to help protect your skin against the sun. But also something else to consider too is high dose antioxidants like blueberries, like any kind of berry, blackberries, raspberries. One of the best ones though is called astaxanthin, and that's derived from an algae, which you can take, and it's really tremendous for the eyes, for the tiny little capillaries in the eyes. Astaxanthin is critical for that. So if you have eye issues or inability to see, astaxanthin is really great. So you can take astaxanthin before you go out in the sun, which is something you might want to consider. Let's see, what else is there to consider too is also toxicities in your skin as well. So if you have a high amount of heavy metals and chemicals that are living in the subcutaneous layers just beneath your skin, you don't want to bake your skin and burn and then cause the inflammatory process to happen on your skin, and then cause all of those inorganic compounds and heavy metals to come out through your skin and then dry on your skin. So you want to clean your skin, and ways to do that is like through sauna therapy. So sauna therapy is really tremendously great for cleaning your skin. You can do stuff like gua sha, which is a way to clean your skin as well. You can look that up, gua sha therapy. Or you could do skin brushing. Something else you could do before you go in the sun too, to make sure you uptake as much light as possible on your solar panel, is red light therapy. So you can pre-dose with red light by going in using a red light device, a full body red light device. We like the Joovv that's in our store, JOOVV. If you go to our store, you'll see it there under the light category. And you can pre-dose with that. That will help your body uptake more of the full spectrum sun or biophotons that come from the sun. Something else that you can do is go out in the morning and get sunlight in your eyes, because that's when you're going to create melanin and your body's ability to not burn. So if you want to tan better, look at the morning sun as it rises every day, and then you'll be able to uptake more of the noonday sun with full frequencies. So those are some ways to help mitigate the damaging effects of sunlight if you're worried about getting too much, and being able to take in more sunlight, because that's really ultimately what it's all about, is how can we get more sun on our body. Eric says, wow, it's just about to comment about burning in the sunlight. I start to burn within 10 minutes right now. I need to fix that. Yeah, also something else to consider too with regards to sun, fried foods, from the research I've done, is pretty damaging to your skin. So avoid eating fried foods too, and as well as for your eyes as well. Where is the photo of the book posted, Bob Dylan? Yeah, it's on our Instagram. So if you go to our Instagram, Extreme Health Radio, it's in our stories. So this will only be available for 24 hours. I took it right before we did the show today. Yeah, no problem with helping you, Bob, with the book name. I was thinking about the Oura Ring when you were talking about the watch. Yeah, you know what? The Oura Ring seems like it does a lot of cool stuff, and that the Fitbit. A lot of people use the Fitbit watches and things like that, but I just am not sold on that. I really don't think. I think it's doing a few damaging things, and that is bringing metals close to your body. Now, I haven't checked it, so I don't know for sure. I'm always in a 0 point with this kind of stuff. If you bring some good evidence, I'll start wearing an Oura Ring. I'll do whatever I have to do to be healthy. So if there's good evidence showing the Oura Rings are good, then I would definitely be open to it. But as far as my understanding goes now, the fact that there's metal on there and the fact that it's subconsciously training your mind, like I said before, to track things so that you can find out what's wrong with yourself, instead of sitting down and doing a meditation and really going deep and asking like the most deepest part of yourself, having a conversation with the most deepest part of yourself. I think that is way better than an Oura Ring. But if I look into it more and I stand corrected, then I'll get one. But right now, I'd rather just go off intuition. I think it trains the mind better to really reconnect with yourself and letting something else tell you some number that may or may not be accurate. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to end it there. That was a 2-hour show. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. On Wednesday, let me just see our show here. On Wednesday, we're going to be talking about vaccines, politics and law, and your legal rights. So come and join us on 10:45 a.m. December 19th. Getting close to Christmas. How cool is that? So that'll happen on December 19th, Wednesday. And then on Friday, we'll be talking with Tim Marshall about healing traumatic brain injuries and nutrient therapeutics. So that'll be really cool. Hope you guys enjoyed that show, and let me know if we could ever help. This was episode 643, and I'll try to put all those different things that we talked about as links in the show notes. So if you're listening on a podcast version, or in a month or so when this becomes a podcast, I'll have it available at extremehealthradio.com/643. All right, guys, I got to go break my fast. I'm going to go eat an apple, and then I'm going to go hang out with Kate and hang out with our kids for a little bit. Love you guys very, very much. Thank you so much for your support. Make sure to check out the products that we talked about on today's show, the Shaga and the Rishi, the products from Sir Thrival, as well as the Stockton Aloe 1. Make sure to check that out as well as the Magnetico Mattress Pad and all the different things we have in our store. Those are hand-picked by us for you guys, as well as the Iris software and the blue blocking glasses. We appreciate you guys, and purchasing through our store during this holiday season is really tremendously helpful for us. So we appreciate that. And those of you that are supporting us on Patreon, I really appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube right now, there's a link to our Patreon page in the description. We really appreciate that as well. It's also available on our YouTube or on our homepage too. And then also, finally, you guys are supporting us through our Amazon link. So if you go to our show, Extreme Health Radio, there's a link to Amazon at the bottom there. And when you make purchases through the Amazon link on our homepage for your Christmas shopping or any time of year, it really helps us. So we appreciate that a lot. So try to think of us before you make a purchase on Amazon, and hopefully you'll click through our link. So if you appreciate our work, consider doing that. Finally, don't forget to sign up to our newsletter too. There's a link for that in the description of this if you're watching on YouTube. Our newsletter is really cool. So we send it out on Mondays and Thursdays. And we send you guys any kind of upcoming summits that are going on, any product discounts that are happening. You can stay up to date with all of the shows that we do, our past shows, our upcoming shows. It's really cool. So sign up to our newsletter link if you're watching on YouTube. That's down there at the bottom. So love you guys very much. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Love you all, and I will catch you on Wednesday at 10:45. And until then, have a great day, and I'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse